This is Chris Coppola, and you're listening to Monday Morning Critic.
On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound I was afraid I'd never hear. Well, you coming?
Where?
Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express! All aboard!
In the Wild West world of podcasting, there is one podcast that is authentic and genuine and continues to stand tall in its originality. Based on a passion for his guests, their work, and his love of podcasting, Derek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast get amazing, diverse, unique guests found nowhere else. The variety and quality are endless. There is something for everyone. Derek Thomas is the hero you deserve. He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector. Welcome to Monday Morning Critic Podcast. Here is Derek Thomas.
My next guest filmography includes the fantastic Ray Donovan, Polar Express, Beowulf, and so many more. Please welcome Chris Coppola. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely, Derek. Thanks for having me.
Chris, I feel like the next person that asks you if you're part of the Coppola family, you're going to punch in the face.
You know what? Not at all. It ends up, especially early on in my career, any reason to keep talking in an audition is a good one. You know what I mean? So if it gets you in the door a little bit and gets the conversation started, it ends up being a really good thing. So, I'm not, there's a long sort of story, but it's the short answer is no, I don't go to Thanksgiving. And I'm not family, and I've worked with in and around family. I've worked with Jason Schwartzman, who is Talia Shire's son, who is a Coppola Shire. I think she's Francis Ford Coppola's sister. And I've ran into the other gentleman who we share a name, Christopher Coppola. He goes by Christopher, and he's Nic Cage's brother, who is a Coppola.
Yep. And it's worked out, like you said, and we're going to get this out of the way because I know you've talked about this to your blue in the face, and I don't want to make this the heart of the interview for your sanity. But it's worked for you and not really against you, but it's for you, like you said, it opened up some doors, but it's also worked against you. Didn't you get served with paperwork aimed for somebody else?
Absolutely. So, and it was the latter that I just mentioned, Christopher.
Yeah.
And this is pre-cell phone, right? Not pre-cell phone, but pre-smartphone. So I was coming out of acting class in the middle of the day in Los Angeles, and not a bad neighborhood where my car was parked. It was in a residential kind of area, And, I wasn't really paying attention, but there was a gentleman parked across the street who I think we made eye contact. I can't remember. And I opened my door. He seemed, very neutral. Didn't seem threatening in any way, shape, or form. And I opened my car. I opened my door and I look over and he's getting out of his car, and I roll down my window because we make eye contact. It looked like he was going to, I don't know, ask me for directions or something. And he says, "Are you Chris Coppola?" And I'm like, and I just started my career. So I'm like, I guess he recognizes me from a commercial or something. I said, "Yeah, I am." And he threw an envelope in my car. It landed on my passenger seat, through my driver's window. And he goes, "You've been served." And I just froze. I didn't think to say anything to him. It just sort of took me by complete off guard. And I didn't know if it was a bomb. I didn't know what it was. I just stared at it for a good minute. I opened it up and loosely, flipped through it. And it turned out that Christopher Coppola was being sued for like a naming rights thing for his new production company or something. So it was something, wasn't really, it was more of a, it was just more, it wasn't anything big. It wasn't, anything serious. It was just a naming rights thing. And so I called the law firm. And then I was pissed, and I was like, your PI is horrible. Apparently he had followed me for a couple days.
Which is creepy in itself.
Like scary, like I was being tailed. And yeah, he threw these in there, and I had to prove I wasn't Chris Coppola, if that makes any fucking sense. And it was just the weirdest thing in the world. And I had to send them my light. It was so stupid.
So is there somebody that you get confused with? Forget name, but how about the way your looks? Is there somebody that you're often confused with in the world of acting?
I don't know. Not really. No, I don't get in the world of acting or in like the way I look. No, not really. I'm one of those actors where I've done enough stuff now over the last 20 years where I'm a character enough where I get, do I know you from high school? Or, you know what I mean? I get that. Like I get people squinting at me. I don't, I like to, I like to look different, in my parts. I don't like to look like Chris if I don't have to. So, if I can, do my hair differently or get a haircut or brush it differently, if I can grow some facial hair, I will. If anything I can do to change my look, I don't know if you could. I'll send you my acting reel if you like after this interview, and you'll see that like one of the things I'm most proud of is my sort of way of disguising myself. That's how I got on. I have a funny. Can I tell you how I got on Ray Donovan?
Absolutely.
So I'm one of like 2 or 3 people that just got a straight offer onto Ray Donovan. It doesn't really happen because it's sort of the actors show kind of thing, right? It's known for its acting. And so apparently Liev Schreiber, well, not apparently, he was directing the first episode of the new season. So the director obviously gets to choose, cast. And so this is pre-COVID, and Liev didn't want to. He's like, I hate auditions. This is him speaking to the casting director. I don't like auditions. It's really kind of uncomfortable, and they are. And an actor knows that. He's like, I don't want to sit through all that. And he's like, can I just look at, demo reels, actors' demo reels? And so he got inundated from the casting director, like a bunch of them. And he was like, Jesus, man. This is him telling me this story. He goes, so I didn't know what to look at. There was just so many. He's like, he started getting frustrated. Like, this is going to be daunting. And so he goes, look at this bozo. His name is Chris Coppola. Let me click on this asshole. Like he said, he was just super frustrated and pissed off. And he kind of clicked on mine because the name was a little recognizable. And he was like, let's see what this asshole's done. And so he clicked on mine and he was like, holy shit. This is great. So he watched it a few times and he's like, this guy can do exactly what I want. And so he called casting and he said, I like to cast Chris Coppola.
Wow.
And they said, wait. We sent you 100 reels. He's like, nah, I'm not watching 100 reels. I clicked on this guy. Have you seen his reel? And so casting's like, you sure you don't want me to put him on tape? You sure you don't want me to, jump through the normal hoops that an actor jumps through? And he said, no. And so casting called my agent and manager and said, Chris is on hold for, Ray Donovan. And then about a day later, I think he probably had to get it checked from, the people above him at Showtime. And it worked out. And then 2 days later, casting is calling me and they connect me to, I'm on the phone with Liev. And he's like, so man, here's the deal. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, bro. And he's like, so you've been casting Ray Donovan. You're going to play this guy, Larry. I saw your acting reel. I love it so much. And basically what your reel told me was you can do anything. So I'm just going to trust you to do the role, bring what you want to it. And then I'll just, direct you as we go. And that's just kind of how it went down. And for a while he told people it was the best acting reel he had ever seen, which it's not, but because Liev gave it its stamp of approval, the industry was, a little bit of buzz there for a second, thinking my acting reel was like the greatest thing that's ever been made. Which the only thing I do differently in my acting reel is, I have enough work now where I made it more like, I made my reel like a trailer for a movie, but the movie is me. And so as opposed to most acting reels have the person's name and then it shows a scene from a show and then another scene from a show. And there's kind of like a black edit in between each one. And they're kind of, standardized. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. I just wanted to have fun. And so I found an editor to put it together for me and I spent a little bit of money. And look, I like it. So, and it worked. It got me a job, but, some casting directors aren't a huge fan of it. But I don't, at the end of the day, I don't care. It's not that I'm trying to offend them. I just, want to, show you what I can do because there's a lot I can do as an actor that I don't think an acting reel, which usually just shows, two people talking, right? Or yelling or crying or laughing or whatever it is they're doing. I'm a really physical actor and I like that and I'm proud of that. So, I have a scene of me like falling off a boat and a scene of me jumping on a horse and I like to show my athleticism, even though I'm not the most athletic looking dude. I'm a very physical person and actually very coordinated. And so I just like to show that off a little bit in my reel. And so that's what Liev saw. And you see me disguised. You see me doing different accents, dialects. And that's the other thing I like to, show off or showcase when I send my reel.
Yeah, and I think the Ray Donovan movie is right around the corner. And it's a great show. Liev is obviously the voice of Hard Knocks in the NFL. He's so good as Ray. A guy obviously you said can direct, can act. He just seems like such a good dude, Chris.
Really great dude. And my experience with Ray Donovan is so unique because we filmed in Primm, Nevada, right? We found I don't know if you're familiar with California and Nevada border, but there's right as you cross the border going into Nevada, there's a couple of casinos right off the side of the road. They are shitholes, right? They're for your desperate gamblers, right? Or, either people leaving Nevada or going to Nevada, right? All headed toward Vegas. But this is not Vegas. You're not supposed to stay there more than 6 hour kind of place. We stayed there for 2.5 weeks and it was super weird. The only good news was everyone was doing it, right? The whole cast. So, John Voight's staying at the crappy hotel with us and Liev is staying in his motorhome outside. And, it was kind of a dump. And we had run of this casino, which was incredible. We got to see the dark side of casino life for sure, which was, part of what makes Ray Donovan so good.
Yeah, it's well said. And, I was going over a lot of your filmography. Is there, and I hate asking this question, but I feel like, I sometimes I feel like it's a necessary question. Is there a part in your filmography that you're partial to? Like you mentioned, you're piggybacking off your demo reel. Is there something that, a specific entry that you're most proud of? I mean, I guess maybe that's a loaded question because I don't want to isolate you from other great projects you've done.
No, it's a great question. And, it doesn't limit me to, listen, there's certain experiences when you're making something regardless of its success level, that is just, when you're in your car driving home, you're like, well, that's really what I signed up for as an actor. It's got great people in it. It's a creative process. It's fun. And of recently, one that stands out is Too Old to Die Young, which did not do anything. I don't think anyone watched it. And it's a little strange. It's on Amazon Prime, but I play Miles Teller's, kind of his partner. We're both police officers, but Nicholas Winding Refn directed the whole series, right? The guy who directed Drive. And so that was a super, it was really wonderful to work with such, Nick is an incredible director. And Miles is a, really interesting actor and an incredible actor. And there was just it was just a really, I got a lot of I had no leash on me, so to speak, right? I was able to, I improvised a lot. Like what I do normally is I don't, I'll improvise some stuff, right? Even in the auditions, if I feel like it works. And so, but what I do when I get an audition is I try not to look at who's making it, because I feel like it adds nerves to you. Right? Like it makes you more nervous if you're auditioning for Steven Spielberg versus auditioning for you, say, right? Right. Everyone would get more nervous, working with an accomplished director versus a first time director. And so I look at what's going on, but I don't really pay attention to it. I just look at the part. And so this part screamed at me right away. And so I auditioned, coincidentally, I auditioned during Christmas break. And I almost didn't do the audition because I think I did it like on the 23rd of December. But it was really short and it was really easy, and I knew the character. Sometimes it just lights up and I know it. Anyway, I go and I do it, and I change like most of the dialogue. And I go to the audition, and there's Nicholas Winding Refn, and he's like, are you and I still don't really know who he is, right? Like I've not put two and two together. I know he's got an accent and he's from some foreign country. And I'm just feeling a little, it's the new year. It was around this time of year, like the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th. And I was like, I've rewritten this scene. He goes, oh, have you? And I'm like, yeah. I go, I just think it makes more sense the way I have it. I go, well, let me show you. And we did it, and he liked it. And he likes to like work on your auditions, like the auditions like 45 minutes with him, and it was great. So when I get the part, it was really great. He came up to me because I improvised some stuff, and he said, you can rewrite your stuff all you want. I'm not going to edit you at all. If I don't like it, I'll say something, but right now you've been dead on everything. So just keep doing it. Wow. So that was it was such a fun show to do, because Miles is playing a guy who's, doesn't speak a lot, right? He's sort of a vigilante that's trying to right some wrongs in the world. The show's super strange. It's one of those shows that I've done, and that's sort of the curse of my career, where I've done these shows that, I think maybe this is going to be the one that's going to get me noticed to take me to the next level. And sure enough, it's not. But I just had such a great time making that. It was so weird. I mean, at one point, we reenact the crucifixion in the police office, and I pull a curtain off the rod, and I'm Mary Magdalene screaming, and the chief of police is playing Jesus. And it's just so fucking out there and so weird. And Nick does some really great stuff where he does a lot. Like he does like 22 takes. Like he does a lot of takes. And for people listening to this, a lot of takes is normally 6. So doing 22 is kind of unheard of.
Wow.
So I mean, he just does a lot of takes, and he's just looking for, I think, and because he never answered the question I asked him, but I think he's just looking for something surprising. An actor can get into like a kind of groove on how he speaks the lines. And this, I remember doing the Mary Magdalene thing of all things. And I think around the 18th or 19th, like I actually cried. And he loved it. Like, even though we were being silly, right? It was meant to be kind of funny. but then the character cried. And I think that's the kind of stuff that Nic is going after with a lot of takes. And I was all game, you know. I mean, I know some people don't like a lot of takes, but I think, you know, that's what makes that kind of experience fun. You know what I mean? So that was one of the ones that stuck out for me of late. And every experience, man, I have a great time, man. You know, I had a great time doing Wimpy Kid. You know, that's sort of the two parts of my career. I'm either a weirdo in a kid's movie or I'm a weirdo in an adult movie. And it's not much difference. Just one's played with a little bit of a smile and the other one doesn't smile at all.
Yeah. And, you know, I was going to ask you about, you know, experience with actors, because in your demo reel, it leads off, I want to say, with Zach Galifianakis. You have a scene with him.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I want to ask you about him in a moment, but you mentioned Miles Teller, right? You hear things, right? People say, oh, he's a prick. Other people say he is a phenomenal actor. That's not up for debate. And I know you've had experiences working with Ted Levine and Donovan, who Ted Levine, for those listening, is Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, if you have to put a face to a role. So working with actors, whether it's Miles or Ted, is it a mixed bag, do you feel like, Chris? I mean, obviously you're not there to get autographs and pictures. You're there to do a job. But is it a mixed bag with how things turn out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first and foremost, the thing you have to do is just be professional, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you show up on a set and you're a new actor, you know, and you show up on a professional set, in the sense that there's going to be someone there that's recognizable or famous, you know, it hits you, man. You're like, oh shit, there's so-and-so. And, you know, so-and-so knows that they're recognizable, right? Like when I did Polar Express, Tom Hanks is so pro that he must have looked over the casting sheet and knew my name, right? Because he came up to me and said, Chris Coppola, hey, Tom Hanks. Hey, can we get a picture together, man? My wife is going to think this is awesome, because we were doing mocap and it was the first time mocap was really being done. And so the photographs were really cool that we were taking, right? We all have those little dots on our face. And he just disarms the whole thing, right? So you automatically feel comfortable. You automatically feel welcome. Whereas someone like Miles, yeah, he has a reputation, but Miles is cool, man. He's just a pro.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And that's the thing is, like, you know, I don't go in there to make friends, like you said. You know, I'm there like if we become friends, awesome. You know what I mean? I'm willing to. If you want to just work, awesome. You know, Ted Levine's one of those saltier older actors that there's no, you know, there's no bullshit with Ted. If, you know, Ted uses words like you're a pussy if you can't handle certain shit. And he's right. You know what I mean? Like Ted's a hard-nosed dude, but he's also an incredible actor. He's incredible. I was so lucky to be working with him and watching his process, and he's so intense. You know, acting to me is a little like a sport. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that when they say things like, you know, if you were a rookie and you got into a basketball game with Michael Jordan, he ain't treating you like a rookie. Do you know what I mean? He's not pussyfooting around. He's going to hit you, right? He's going to check you. Mm-hmm. He's going to steal the ball from you. And that's how these pros are. I mean, Tom Hanks, nice guy and all, but when it was time to act, like, he came at me full speed. You know what I mean? So you got to go full speed. Like, if you're tiptoeing around and sort of oohing and ahhing at who you're working with, it's not going to get you too far. What you really got to go in there, know your shit, and bring something to the table, and people are usually really stoked about that. You know what I mean? That's been my experience. And sometimes, listen, Ray Donovan's not the most friendly place in the world. It's a very grown-up set.
Right.
Most actors, you know, if you're looking for them to say at cut, hey, great job, they don't do that there. They say cut, and then they all go huddle around the monitor. They talk about what they want to do, and then they give you notes. There's no pats on the back. It's not like a TV show on any of the number of networks that when, you know, you're done, everyone's like eating quesadillas with mango on them and talking about their weekend. It's not that show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a grown-up place, and don't think you're going to get complimented, because you're not. I mean, it's And I knew that afterwards. So when I did Too Old to Die Young, I just expected that. It was a little more neutral. It was a little more friendly, but not super. Nick was always, doing his thing. And, I just brought my A game toward Miles. And, after about 3 weeks, I think I did 4 episodes on that show. About like episode 2 or 3, Miles started, chatting me up, and, we're just talking about sports and things like that and getting to know one another a little bit. I mean, I'm sure if it was something that had gone on, and, we probably would have became friendly after about a year or two, but that's fine. That's how it works,
Yeah. And when you talk about meeting Tom Hanks, and I'm going to touch upon Polar Express in a moment, you meet him, you talk, you have your dialogue, you work together. Is it tough coming off? I don't want to call it a high. Maybe I can. Is it tough coming off a situation like that where it's like you're at the top of the mountain, you're acting with, in my opinion, the greatest actor in the history of movies and television, and you're acting with him, and then the next project might not be as prestigious, right? Is it tough to have that roller coaster ride, Chris? So like one day you're doing dialogue with Hanks. The next day, and not to put anybody else down on another project, but you're in something different, not as esteemed. Is that tough?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, it's like, that's the, because I'm not a recognizable face by any stretch. I mean, I probably get recognized, I don't know, maybe twice a year. I don't know. I don't get recognized, that often enough to make me feel like I've been, done enough projects. But yeah, it's hard to do like the AA list projects, and then I don't do student films anymore. But let's say I do like a little low budget something, that's a pile of squirt, But it's also a job, I mean, I talked about that with Tom, like, a lot of projects, I do to make my insurance, or to just have residual, because mostly how I make my money is, residuals become like a revenue stream for me, right? I've done enough where, sometimes I'm getting a nice size check, and sometimes I'm getting a check for 11 cents. And so, I just, it's difficult, and but it's two-sided, right? There's days when I'm like, shit, I don't know how much longer you can take of this. And there's also days where I'm like, I'm one audition away, because I am.
Yeah. No, that's right. I mean, and you got a strong filmography to back that up. Any coincidence, Chris, working for Zemeckis in Beowulf and Polar Express? Was that circumstance, coincidence? Was that meant to? How did that work out for you?
No, so that worked out just how you would think it worked out. Bob has a group of people called the Zulu group, right? Which Zemeckis, it's like his sort of like tribe, right?
Yep.
And when I did Polar, I got my production jacket, right? My production gift.
Yep.
And on mine, special, and they told me, one of the first ADs, he's like, I don't know if you noticed, but you have a Zulu patch on yours. And I said, oh, yeah, there it is. And he goes, that means you're Zulu. That means you'll work with us again. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought, oh, yeah, right. And, Polar was one of those experiences driving home where it was just like everything was great. You know what I mean? I'm working with Bob and Tom and Michael Jeter and Peter Scolari and Nona Gay and all these incredible people. And we're writing, we're singing Christmas songs, and it was just an incredible experience. We were doing cutting edge technology. And then, I don't know, I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, where Bob's assistant called me and asked if I could do a British accent, and it just so happened I could. I was working on it in an acting class, and they said, "Hey, would you come down and read for Beowulf?" The casting director called me and said, "Hey, can you come over?" And so I went over, and yeah, I mean, it was just like it was done and done. Like I knew I was going to get the part, assuming I was close. And it didn't matter anyway because they had a dialect coach. But I think Bob just wanted to see if I could do it. You know what I mean? If I could do the British accent, or if it was going to be like, lifting cement blocks. And I got it, basically because I had done Polar, and also because I was really familiar with mocap and how that worked. And, when I got Polar, I got a phone call because I auditioned for Polar, and then I didn't get the part for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I got a call, and I was out to lunch with my acting teacher. And my agent called me and said, Bob Zemeckis wants to talk to you about this movie you auditioned for. And I go, I don't even remember what the movie is. And I remembered it. I remember going in to play a 9-year-old boy. And I remember, I like went full method at the time. I was wearing like kids' pajamas. And I remember having a bad audition. And I remember like, being really upset with myself. And it's so funny because actors think that, certain, actors get hung up on things like I messed up that line. And, but I don't know if you've never met me. So I'm really childlike. And I think that's what Bob saw. I'm very much like a big kid. And so I think he saw that. And then when I talked to him, when I went to the office, he basically asked me he's like, can I trust you to be here every day? And I said, yeah. He goes, no, I mean, do you like do drugs or do you drink a lot? And I said, no, not really, no more than the average person. He goes, okay, good. He goes, and we're going to be working really long hours and I'm going to be having you come in at like 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. Can you handle that for, 3 months? And I said, yeah, that'll be fine. And he said, okay, great. You got the gig. And that was how that worked. And by the time we got to Beowulf, the technology had changed and the call times had changed a little bit. And that was a totally different group. We had John Malkovich, we had Anthony Hopkins, we had Robin Wright, we had Ray Winston, we had Brendan Gleeson, we had Crispin Glover. And it was just like this smorgasbord of crazies.
Chris, I've never heard of any of those people.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's so much fun. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is just like Tom in the sense of, he's like, oh, please just call me Tony. And just just telling you everything about the business, about acting. John Malkovich, who seems like he would be totally off-putting, is the complete opposite, the coolest dude in the world. Ray Winston is about as fun as it gets. Brendan Gleeson is awesome. Loved to smack me in the head every day. That was like this thing he liked to do. It was so much fun. We were riding horses inside the stage. It was a blast.
How weird is it that you've worked with Anthony Hopkins, who was in Silence of the Lambs, and Ted Levine, who was also in Silence of the Lambs, the two, I guess, evil portions of that movie, right? I
can't imagine those two bad. I don't think they had any scenes together. No, they didn't. But
no.
Fred is so intense, man. He is one of the most intense dudes you'll ever meet. He's
Hannibal Lecter and Buffalo Bill. I just put the it's just that's kind of a cool little thing,
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think of that. They're both. One's just a salty pro who does not like to have any chit chat, and I do like to have chit chat. So it took us a while to figure out how to work together because I wasn't going to change. All right, you don't want to chit chat with me? Fine, I'll chit chat with the crew. So, and that, that just, Ted doesn't like that. Ted's more old school and he's entitled to that. And by I think the second episode though, we found our groove and I know he always respected me as an actor. Like, I'm bringing my work to my scenes and doing a good job. So, so there was never a problem there. And by the time we were done, we had we were friends.
Yeah. And, speaking of Polar Express, when you click on the Polar Express page, because I was rewatching it for the holidays, just one of the classics. And, when you call up the page, when you bring up the page of Polar Express, your name is sandwiched in between Tom Hanks and Michael Jeter, which has to be a good feeling, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. I just went to a screening of Polar it was sort of like a reunion. One of the effects guys that heads up the motion capture stuff, he branched off to start making video games and they were testing their screening room over there at their new space in Playa del Rey. And this was just last week. And he called me and said, "Hey, Chris, do you want to come down for a screening? It'll be a bit of a reunion." And I said, "Sure, man." Because you become friends with everybody on the crew, not just the actors. And if anything, I usually become friends with crew more. They tend to be a little more fun and, just fun to hang out with. anyway, all the guys that did all the mocap and stuff were there, and we were all catching up, and they were telling me some great, stories of what they were going through, right? Because they were in uncharted territory in terms of the technology. But yeah, I mean, it was, and then this harkens back to that question that you asked, like, how does that feel to go from that movie to then doing, a $500 movie, right? With no money and, my trailer is my car.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I thought, when you do a movie like Polar, you think you're going to, in your career starting out, you think, well, this is it, there's no other place to go, but just keep going up. And,
right.
and it's one of those lessons you learn as an actor, coming up, you just learn that is what's going to be the thing. I mean, the roller coaster is hard. I mean, one of the things, because I teach an acting class every now and then, and one of the things I really preach is, if you can be consistent, and what I mean by consistent is just stay here, you have a chance, because everyone has a little bit of talent. I mean, every so often I run into an actor who has like no business acting, but hardly ever.
Right.
Like everyone has it. And if you have the ability to be disciplined, to try it and do it and work at it, you're going to be decent. And, it's just part of the journey, though, is learning how to be consistent here.
Yeah. No, that's really well said. And I get that. We talked about Hanks and Michael Jeter, by the way. There's a Green Mile connection there. Boy, I'm putting a lot of stuff together, Chris. I feel like Good Will Hunting over here by the chalkboard. So, I wanted to ask you, we talked about your filmography, and I did want to ask you 2 more entries, and I want to talk a bit about your life. It's too bad that Agent Carter got canceled, because I met Haley Atwell in Seattle in 2019. She seems like a really great person. That project I thought was fun. It's too bad it didn't stick around.
I loved doing that project, and I wasn't at the time into Marvel. I am now, because my daughter's super into it.
Nice.
I've been indoctrinated into like the Marvel world, and I realized just what a cool opportunity I did have, and I didn't even really realize it. To me, it was just another show, right? The only 2 shows that I've done that I've actually watched the shows, like they were shows I watched, were Ray Donovan, and I just recently did an episode of Barry. And so those are the only 2 shows I've ever watched that I've done that I know I'll just stumble across my work, right? I usually don't even, Agent Carter just was like, I didn't even know what it was. And when I got it, they're so top secret, they wouldn't give me my pages. And so, like, listen, I'm still old school. I like to have pages, like actual paper. And they're like, okay, well, listen, we'll print it for you here. I go, that's fine. I go, I don't need the script. I just need my scenes. And so, but it was such an incredible moment to be working on the Universal lot, which is, fun to do. That just feels cool. And I'm dressed like in like 40s clothes. And like, it's just I don't know, man. I just remember I had this really like, wonderful like moment of gratitude being on that show, because I remember like being done one night and I was walking, from the stage to my trailer, and I could hear my hard soled shoes walking. They were echoing, and I had that cool hat and the suit, and I was just like, fuck, this is so cool. This is so cool, dude. This is a great part. And I do think that again, this is just luck, man.
You had a project with Zach Galifianakis, right? So as somebody has a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor, sometimes it's so dry that people just think I'm an a-hole. Is he turn it on and off, Chris? Or is he like?
I was really lucky because I met Zach before he was famous.
Right.
So Zach and I are making this weird movie, and
but he did a stand-up career. Was this in that ballpark? Was this like during his stand-up career before his acting?
Yeah, but Visionaries is a pretty cool little movie, man.
Absolutely.
It's a little long in the tooth, but other than that, it's a really cool movie. And the director and I are still friends, Jared Drake. It's a really great little movie, and Zach was. We'd be done with. I remember it was like the one time. This is after Polar. I was like. I didn't know who Zach was. He wasn't famous yet. And Jared would give us like really, the scenes we were doing were in an office, and Jared would give me direction like, okay, so this time you're like at the top of a mountain and you're thinking of jumping off. And I'd be like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then Zach, we get done with the take, and Zach would go, did he give you the direction about being on the mountain? And I'd be like, yeah, did you get that? He goes, yeah, I got it last week. I go, do you have any idea what's happening right now? He goes, no, I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. He goes, you're really funny. I go, you are too, man. So Zach and I hit it off to a point where we were making that movie during Labor Day, and we were shooting in Washington. And my friend lives in the Cascades, like a buddy I went to high school with. So I was going to rent a car during the 3-day weekend and go see him. And Zach loves the mountains and stuff like that. And so Zach's like, can I go with you? And I'm like, I guess. I mean, I have to check with my buddy, but I'm sure he won't care. And then he comes over to me like lunch and goes, I can't go. And I go, oh, what happened? He goes, oh, I'm the main. He's like, I'm doing stand-up this weekend. I go, oh, man. I didn't know you were stand-up, and that's that thing. I don't look people up.
Right.
I don't, and I go, I didn't know you were a stand-up. And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I'm doing this show down by the water. And so I told the director, I goes, apparently Zach's doing a show. He goes, oh, my God, did he tell you he's doing a show? He's headlining this, this huge, music festival.
Jesus.
With Pearl Jam and, a couple of other people. And I'm like, are you shitting me? He goes, dude, have you not looked him up? I go, no. He goes, he's about to become huge. And I go, I had no idea. And then that summer, had our movie come out after Hangover, everyone would know what Visioneers is. But our movie came out before Hangover. And it came out 3 weeks before. And Zach, you could even probably look it up. He went on Letterman to push Hangover, right? And he even brings a DVD of Visioneers because he liked the movie so much.
Yeah.
Dave is like, oh yeah, and there's this movie. We're going to commercial. So it was such bad timing because I don't know why they didn't just hold the movie off for a year and then release it, but it is what it is. But he was so much fun to work with. And that seems to be, I have this a lot where actors or comedians think I'm hilarious. And they keep all telling me it's just a matter of time, Chris. There's a comedian, Chris Spencer, who thinks I'm about the funniest thing going on. Zach thinks I'm funny. Ken Marino, when we were doing Agent Carter, is like, dude, you are very funny. So I tend to make comedians laugh. Hopefully someday I'll make the whole world laugh. But I just keep doing my thing, man.
Yeah, you certainly are. So in your brief, what's the word I'm looking for? Your brief visit or your brief entry into the Marvel universe, any favorite characters or favorite movies that hit you right away? I know you said your daughter and
my daughter's really indoctrinated me into the whole thing, and so we've just really been catching up. I mean, right now, I do like the Shang-Chi world. I thought that was really cool, and I was, obviously I saw Iron Man and stuff like that, but I've gone back and I'm loving the Thor movies.
Oh,
and
that's great.
My daughter's really into it. She got last Christmas, she got the Marvel Encyclopedia, read it so much that the binding has broke. And she knows, we go to one way I got my daughter to kick off on reading was we would go where her school is. It's next to a comic book store. So every Friday we would stop at the comic book store and I'm like, you could pick out a few comics. And that's kind of how she got into it also.
Wow, that's great.
And she's, she doesn't care if the character is female or male. She's was big on Captain America for a while. Then she got into that whole, I forget what they're called, but Squirrel Girl and all those people.
Wow.
All those characters, those female, like teenage female strong ones.
I think the two of you, what am I talking about? This is what I wanted to ask you. And I'm glad I thought, because I was going to say, why don't you and your daughter go see Spider-Man No Way Home, right?
Well, we have to, but apparently one of the guys who did all the Polar Express stuff, or those guys are all like really big, fans of comic books, those behind the scene tech guys. And I was like, "How is it?" He goes, "Dude, it's incredible." And I feel like I missed the Andrew Garfield ones, and he said it helps if you've seen them all. Because it kind of ties them all in. He goes, "I don't want to ruin it for you." He goes, "But Spider-Verse sort of opened this all up for them. And if you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about."
Yeah, sure.
So he's like, "You probably want to see them all." I goes, and my daughter's actually slow on Spider-Mans because they're not on any, Disney doesn't carry them on the Disney Plus.
Yeah, Spider-Man's in that weird tier. It's not Marvel, but it is. It's not.
Yeah,
it's
just
just
Sony technically.
It is Marvel, but the ownership is really wonky. It's weird.
Yeah. So my daughter has seen 2 of the first 2, so we're just trying to catch up, and just see a few more before we go and see it.
But the reason I brought that up is because like you have an uncredited role in the 2002 Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. So I'm in the first Spider-Man, and I was cut. And here's why I think I was cut. So I'm in the wrestling scene with Spider-Man and Macho Man.
Oh, nice.
And I was playing a fan, right? And listen, I'm a heavy set guy, but I don't like to comment on being heavy set for that being the joke. And one of the other actors that was there with me, like, shoves a hot dog in his mouth, and it's sort of like the fat guy eating the hot dog thing.
Right.
And so I didn't want to do that. So when they said action, I improvised this whole, and this is in front of like 200 extras and Tobey Maguire and Macho Man. And I improvised like this whole thing about, because Spider-Man's wearing like that really bad costume. And I improvised this whole thing like, "Kill the little nerd." And I'm like yelling all this stuff. And when they say cut, like all 200 people like cheer for me. And the first assistant director is looking at me like, "Dude, don't ever do that again." He's looking at me like, that ain't going to make the movie. But I just felt like this was my one chance. I'm going to try to do something else. I still get residuals for Spider-Man. It's a SAG job, whether you get cut or not, doesn't matter. And so I just felt like I wanted to do something else than shove a hot dog in my face.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know where to start with how impressive that is. 1, you're in a classic Spider-Man movie. 2, you're with Macho Man, which is phenomenal. Like, there's so much awesomeness going on in that, like, scene. The other, your improvisation reminds me of, there's a movie called Bruno with Sacha Baron Cohen. Yeah. And he, in the middle of the scene, he's obviously messing with the director. But everyone else doesn't know, what he's going to do. Like, they're doing this big, serious court scene, and he's playing this extra, and it's like 6 takes. One of them, he lights a cigarette in a courtroom. Like, it's so zany and off the wall. He decides to improv in all the wrong ways. But you got me thinking of that. But yeah, man, I mean, your career is a pretty amazing one. I mean, how do you like, and this will be the last question on your filmography, then I have a quick question about your life. Friday the 13th, how do you like the horror genre? Is there a genre that you prefer, Chris? Or is it, what? If the part's good, the part's good.
Yeah, listen, again, I'll just, look, it's a job, right? So there's always that aspect of it. But, a movie like Friday the 13th, I rarely have these kind of opportunities. But, Jordana Brewster, the actress, her husband, Jordana and I are really good friends. And I know her husband, who was the producer of that at the time. And he called me and said, "Hey, man, would you audition for this, a couple roles? Jordana says you're great, and I'd love to see you." And so I auditioned for one other role. I think it was a little more going on in it, right? A little more, dialogue, or maybe a couple scenes versus one. And again, by this time I'd put my ego aside, that whole thing of, making it and being in a big movie, a little movie. And it's just like, work is work, man. And knowing that, listen, Friday the 13th is going to do something every actor wants, which is it's going to go to theaters and it's going to be seen by millions of people. And that's the name of the game, right? That's the greatest thing. That's what I want. I want to be in stuff that's seen. I'm in, Barry coming out next year or whenever the season releases. and that's great, one, because it's a good show, but two, because everyone's going to see it. That's mostly what you want for your career, even if it's just a couple lines. And with Friday the 13th, man, I showed up on like the last week of filming. The cast was all like screwing around, and they were all like buddies, and it was very incestuous, right? They're all like on all inside jokes. It was really kind of hard to, come in there and work, and they weren't giving me any space to improvise. And so I don't know if you've seen my thing is really small in it, but I can make this fart sound with my mouth, and it's sort of like, and so I did that in the movie, and everyone just busted up. Like after, it was hard to keep a straight face. They all they ruined a couple takes. And anyway, I delivered that to it, and it's like became synonymous within that group of me doing this fart sound. But I just, I found a way in. The only reason I did the fart sound was because they wouldn't let me talk. And so I just found a little space and made this noise, and it worked. And I loved being in Friday the 13th. It's a little weird, that one. They go to his origin story, which I think is just silly, but the movie did well. And again, the name of the game is being in stuff that's seen, man. Here's how stuff is seen. That movie came out, and I didn't even pay attention to it coming out, right? It came out on like Thursday night or Friday, right? And I went out with friends that night. My phone is dinging like every like 25 minutes. And it's just really lovely. I just went to see Friday the 13th. I loved it. Like, just people were just calling me. And it was just like, man, that is the name of the game. Is like being in stuff that is seen. Like, that is the greatest thing about it. And so I'm really proud of it. And I love being in horror films, man. It's so much fun.
Yeah, man, you could do it all for sure. You were born, I'll end with this. You were born in Brooklyn. You go to Laguna Beach, and I feel like you never really found yourself there. And if I'm misspeaking, please correct me. And I feel like, didn't you guys, Chris, didn't you not feel, maybe it was for a variety of reasons, you moved to California because of your dad's work. It doesn't seem right to you, right? It's never really a good fit for you. Am I looking at that correctly?
What it was, I'm a really, look, I'm a gregarious, outgoing guy. So
down to earth.
Yeah. And you put me anywhere and I'll make friends.
Right.
It wasn't like I wasn't able to make friends. It's just I was around a bunch of blue-eyed, blonde-haired surfers, and I'm not that. I became very aquatic there. Like, I have my scuba license, and I know how to surf, and I body surf, and I'm just very aquatic in that, right? And those things are still really important to me, and I'm really glad I know them. And I love the ocean more than anything because of my time living there. And there was a moment when I lived there. I remember this was very clear to me. I was sitting on my surfboard with my buddy. It was like late August, and it was perfect, right? The waves were kind of perfect. It was in between sets. The water was warm. And I was like, I wanted to be an actor. And I remember thinking, this is so comfortable. Why would you ever leave this? And I was just like, this is great. Like, this is life. Like, I could be here forever. This is perfect. And then I was like, no, man, I gotta leave here. And then there was a moment in my life where I almost had to reinvent myself. When I found acting, and that hit me hard like a ton of bricks. I had to leave that world, and I didn't go back there for a while. And I have like some of my dearest friends are there, right? I have friends in every aspect of my life. I have my movie friends. I have my friends from high school and growing up. I have my friends from Brooklyn. I have my friends, I've done 2 movies in Italy. I have that whole group of people over there.
Yep.
That I'm really good friends with. And, that's my thing. I find strength in numbers. And so, but leaving Laguna was I had to like leave it and become an artist, and now I go back there, and now I can go back there. But there was a while where I just could not go back. There was anything wrong with it. It wasn't anything political. It wasn't anything. It was just I needed to reinvent myself in a way that validated myself, right? Because my friends from home, like, your friends from home, they're like, oh, really? You're going to do that? they can plant seeds of doubt, and they don't even mean to do it in a mean way, right? They're just joking with you. But seeds of doubt are dangerous, man, especially for young artists. So I tried to stay away from that, and because the acting that I learned was, I learned the method, but I also I tap into everything. Like I did 12 summers of Shakespeare, and I've done, Italian clowning for a year. I've studied a lot of dance because my acting teacher had a master's in dance. So she made me learn modern dance, and I've studied modern dance for 2 years. And then I studied ballroom for a little bit just to know my body. And so there's a lot that I feel like if and when I become just the next level up, I may skip a couple of levels and go to another whole level in that regard because I have a lot of stuff that I don't even think people know that I have in terms of my my skill set.
Yeah, I'm not betting against you. That's for sure. You're just a really talented guy, and the fact that you bring your daughter to a comic book store, like that makes it even more. Like that solidifies how good of a dude you are.
Well, comic book stores are about the coolest place in the world, and my meeting them, so to speak, with my daughter, I just forgot how good they are, man. Like it's funny because when we went to the comic book store, I went to the guy at the counter, and we did the whole thing with my daughter. I'm like, where can she shop? And he's like, okay, this and this, and now they know her, so when she walks in, they direct her to where she wants to go. They told me the whole rating system of comic books, and I said, well, I'd like to read some of those older, comics for adults. And I read a couple of them, like the Preacher, and
oh, nice, yeah.
And there's the other one, the famous one that Neil Gaiman writes. I'm blanking on it, but you know what it's a very famous comic. But I liked them, but then I started just reading the ones my daughter had, like some Captain America. And I was just like, these are really good, man. I don't need to read, I don't need to read the adult ones. I like this stuff, man. There's something about it, there's just something about those comics, reading, I've read She-Hulk, and I've read, I tried to quiz the guys at the comic book store and catch them in a lie that they don't know everything, but they do. I said, do you guys, because my daughter's encyclopedia, I said, you guys have any comics on slapstick? And they go, yeah, we've got 3 right over here. And I'm like, shut the front door. So anyway, I have a few comic books on slapstick, and comics are great, man.
Yeah, it's too bad because I feel like kids are so lost in their cell phones today that a lot of them don't realize the excellence of that you can actually read them before they get to the screen, and that's great. It just reinforces your knowledge, right? But
100%, and there's usually like a book in that sense, right? There's even more there, right? Because they can't either put it in the movie or they want to take the story another way. That there's just so much more there.
That's right. When you're watching the movie, it's like you're kind of getting the icing on the cake, but it's so much deeper, right? It's that. Yeah.
That's the smartest thing that Marvel's doing, right? It's so inventive, with Loki and even Hawkeye, which I didn't really have a lot of enthusiasm about, but I was really impressed with it, man. Like they just have a way of WandaVision. I mean, dude, whether you like it or not, that's beside the point. The point is that they did something that is so inventive and creative.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so cool, man. That alone will keep you interested, even if you hated it.
Yeah.
Watching this to get more mad at it. It's so good. I'm very impressed with them.
I wish that Disney had the same approach and the excitement they had with The Mandalorian and brought that over to the last. I mean, I didn't hate the last 3 Star Wars as much as some people did. There's some rabid fans out there that really hated The Last Jedi, really hated The Rise of Skywalker. I think The Last Jedi is an underrated movie, but either or. But I just feel like when people watch The Mandalorian, and I don't know if you're a Star Wars guy.
I am, and I'm not enough in. I mean, of course I am. But I'm not I'm looking forward to Boba Fett. I've not gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
But there's only moments in Mandalorian. I've watched all the Mandalorian. There's only moments I like. Like I love the oh God, I'm blanking on his name. The black actor with the Italian name. He's so great. That whole Darth Vader story with him.
He was in Better Call Saul, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Blanking on his name, but I love that whole storyline that they're going there that with. But like, you know, and I like the Grigu stuff. It's super cute. And I love the first
Giancarlo Esposito. I had to look it up. Giancarlo.
There you go. Yeah. Love that whole storyline where they're going with that. But I wasn't. I mean, listen, I watched every episode.
So let me ask you: if they approached that excitement in the theater, where at the very last episode, where you finally see Skywalker coming to get Baby Yoda, the crowd would have gone ape shit at that moment.
Ape shit. I mean, that's one of my goals right now. As I told my daughter the other day, because we were watching the trailer for Boba Fett. This was about 2 weeks ago before it came out. And my wife came in and I go, so this is a goal. And she goes, what, being on Boba Fett? I go, not even Boba Fett. Just being in the Star Wars universe is like, that's the only moment that I might get starstruck and have to like focus. If I'm wearing any of those costumes and being on any of those sets, I would be supremely stoked because I just think, and I think I agree with you about the whole. Look, I think Disney will find itself. They did what they wanted to first, which I think they wanted to make money.
Yeah. And
so they made some money, right? They're killing it with it. They've already made their money back and then some. And so now they've got this they've got one of the biggest jewels in cinema. And so now what do you do with it? And Boba Fett, I've not seen it yet, so I can't comment on it. But I'm excited. Hopefully they turn the corner, and maybe some of those Marvel guys come over and help them. I mean, what's his name is over there? The guy who made Iron Man. He heads up Mandalorian, doesn't he?
Yeah, Dave. Come on.
No, Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau, but the head is. Why am I blanking on this?
Yeah, both you and I, who know their shit usually, are not. I usually know.
Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni was like George Lucas. That's the name I was looking for. Dave Filoni is like Lucas's right hand man. He is. I would put him ahead of Favreau, and then they're like 1A, 1B. But Filoni's the guy. If they follow him into the future with Star Wars movies, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and they've done some nice stuff with for the kids, like the Lego stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's just super cute. But I'd like some stuff for me. So
yes.
From a selfish standpoint, I'd like some adult stuff that's killer.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for giving me an hour of time. Chris Coppola, I can't thank you enough I got to tell you, you're one good dude, and I wish you nothing but success down the road, my friend.
Oh, man, you too. Happy New Year. And, from your mouth to God's ears.
Thank you for listening to Derek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can also connect with Monday Morning Critic on Instagram and Facebook, MDM Critic on Twitter, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found. All episodes available, www.mmcpodcast.com.